The camera captures a moment in time, a frozen image before the curtain falls. But what happens when that moment becomes the last one we ever see someone alive? Tonight, we explore the disturbing stories behind these 3 chilling photos. 1. Maura Murray. Maura Murray was a student studying nursing at the University of Massachusetts in Amherst. She was an overachiever with great records in school, and she also made her mark as a competent track athlete. Overall, she seemed like a normal student with an ordinary life until a series of events changed her life entirely. In late 2003, Maura stole a credit card number and used it on numerous occasions. Unfortunately, she got caught and the police arrested her for credit card fraud. Soon, her charge was supposed to be lifted as long as she could manage to show good behavior. 3 months later, she ran into another problem. Her sister Kathleen called her on the phone, telling her about her alcohol addiction and issues she had with her fiancé. Because of this, Maura got worried over her sister. Maybe a little bit too much, because it affected her security job at campus. 2 days later, Maura and her father Fred went shopping for a car. They then went to have dinner together before Fred came back to his motel. Maura, on the other hand, borrowed her father's car to go back to her dorm for a party that night. However, the next morning, she ended up crashing the car into a guardrail. The car was badly damaged while Maura came out unharmed. On February 9th, 2004, the next morning, Maura started behaving strangely. She had contacted her professors to take a week off due to a family death. She also told her boyfriend, Bill, that she didn't feel like talking that day. She then began calling multiple hotels in Vermont and also a condo in Bartlett where she had stayed before, but did not make any reservations for a room. At the same time, she had looked up directions to Burlington, Vermont. The weird thing was, no one knew where she was planning to go or what she wanted to do. Later, at around 3 p.m., Maura went to an off-campus ATM and withdrew $280. She then went to buy $40 worth of alcohol at a liquor store. And finally, she went to the Registry of Motor Vehicles to pick up insurance forms for her car accident. However, at 7 p.m. in Haverhill, she got into another car crash. The police came to investigate, but by the time they got there, Maura was nowhere to be found. On the scene, there was only a damaged car, but with no driver. The car was locked and the airbag was deployed. Inside the car, there were many boxes of wine and a Coke bottle. They also found a printed MapQuest directions to Burlington, Vermont. Soon, a search was launched combing the area west of the scene, but no one went east. This was what annoyed Fred, who was informed about his daughter's disappearance 24 hours after the crash. Fred believed that Maura was always supposed to go east in Bartlett because she was there as an infant. However, the police insisted that the evidence they gathered suggested that Maura had always planned to go to Vermont. They even went believing the idea that she was possibly suicidal due to the series of problems prior to her disappearance, such as her issues with the credit card fraud, concerns over her sister, and the crashing of her father's car. Maura's family, on the other hand, believed that Maura simply wanted to have some days to stay away from all the drama, though some suggest that her disappearance was meant to be permanent, considering how she put all her belongings into boxes at the dorm. Ever since then, Maura's disappearance only left speculative theories and alleged sightings, while her whereabouts are still a mystery to this day. This was a picture where Maura was last seen when she was withdrawing money at an ATM. 2. Andrew McAuley. A fearless adventurer known as Andrew McAuley grew up loving extreme sports. He often went swimming, tree climbing, and cliff diving with his brother, but what he loved best was sea kayaking. To him, he could go through any weather with the power of sport. Through kayaking, he got himself incredible achievements that no one else could even imagine doing. In 2003, Andrew became the first person to kayak between the mainland of Australia and the island of Tasmania, directly crossing the Bass Strait non-stop. This took an astounding 35 hours to complete. His amazing feats earned him the Adventurer of the Year award in 2005. This fueled his curiosity to keep reaching new heights, constantly increasing the difficulty. Andrew's ultimate goal was to become the first person to successfully travel across the Tasman Sea. It was an area of water between Australia and New Zealand. He once tried this dangerous challenge in 2006, but failed after only one night. But he didn't give up. January 2007 was the second time that Andrew had attempted on completing this challenge. He began his trip across the sea with his kayak. It all started well. He managed to take some photos and videos of his trip and even sent them to his family. And this went on for a whole month. By this time, he had already passed the majority of the Tasman Sea. However, he had some difficulties finishing it off. Off the coast of New Zealand, Andrew was faced with a heavy storm. He managed to hold on against it for over 27 hours, but the storm did some damage to his kayak. And that's when Andrew began sending his distress signal. A day later, the storm ended. He sent his wife Vicky a message saying that he would see her on Sunday at 9 a.m. Happy with the message, Andrew's family had organized a welcome party at Milford Sound, New Zealand. Unfortunately, Andrew didn't show up. Soon, the family grew concerned over Andrew, so they went to the New Zealand Coast Guard, and what they found was disturbing. It turned out that on February 9th, they received a radio message from Andrew. They initially thought that he was just checking in for the day, but instead they heard the words help and sinking in the call. And that's when a search was launched the next day, complete with planes over the area. That night, they found Andrew's upturned kayak not far away from Milford Sound. Strangely enough, it was in near perfect condition, with only small damage from the storm. Andrew's gear, along with his paddle, phone, GPS tracker, and radio, were all found inside the kayak. But Andrew was nowhere to be seen. Considering the bizarre scene, theories started surfacing about what happened to Andrew. It was believed that Andrew somehow got separated from his kayak, most likely due to a rogue wave. But he couldn't flip it back around because of how heavy the gear inside the kayak was. This was the last picture Andrew took before his unfortunate disappearing. "I may have bitten more than I can chew," were his last words. To this day, Andrew is still missing, and we might never know what really happened to him. 3. Darren Mitchell. A Texas woman received an unsettling call on Thursday. It was from her brother, Darren Mitchell. May 26, 2016. Darren was just driving his pickup truck when suddenly he was hit by a devastating flood. His car was swept into the water quick enough that he didn't have time to escape. As a result, he got trapped inside. Knowing that he was in trouble, he called his sister to inform him that he was trapped in floodwaters on Highway 105 just outside Brenham. But he also assured her that he was fine. However, Darren knew that he had to do something to save himself from the flood. As an attempt to try figuring out an escape plan, he kept going in and out of his truck multiple times. Knowing he found no clue for an escape, he went back into his car. Minutes later, his truck started flipping upside down, and when it did, the truck slowly began to vanish into the water, leaving no sight of Darren. Soon, on Sunday morning, Darren was discovered along with his overturned blue truck in Kirkendall Creek. Unfortunately, he wasn't alive when they found him. Darren's unfortunate death was one of at least 6 victims of the Texas flood who didn't survive. This was the last photo uploaded on Darren's Facebook account the day he went missing. The caption says, "All I wanted to do was go home." These chilling photos serve as a reminder that life can be fragile, unpredictable, and sometimes tragically unfair.